Alright guys, here we have a new plant I've never planted before as far as tomatoes. This is called a Cherokee Purple. A really beautiful little plant. I like the way it looks, real dark green foliage, really nice looking plant. This one had a lot of lower growth when I put it in the ground, and I trimmed the very base limbs off of it, left the suckers. The suckers have put out well, but it does have a little more horizontal limbs at the bottom. You can see how they're dragging, you see how they're wilted on the ends from being dragging down into the straw. Even though it's not contacting any soil, they still don't like to be dragging the ground, okay? Now this plant hasn't grown upwards a whole lot yet. It's really sprouted out from the base and it's gonna make probably a bushier plant from the looks of it. But I still wanna get this horizontal limb off. It's doing me no good, it's not gonna produce any fruit. It's just simply there as a foliar limb. And I don't want it dragging the ground, I don't want it spreading disease. So I just go in there, trim it off, okay? I've got a lot of good growth coming in on the top. I've got some flowering and just like some produce trying to make up top. I've got to make a decision here. I've got a big side shoot here. And I want to promote this growth to grow up, and I want to get the plant up off the ground a little bit, okay? So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go here and trim a little bit of these side shoots off of this sucker limb that I left here. Okay. And getting the lower limbs off of that hopefully will make this top growth shoot on out and get up off the ground, which is what I want. And then I'll have two major stem bases coming out the base here, which will give me a good strong plant, will give me two sources of production going up. All right. I'm hoping this third one that I'm leaving on this side will really strengthen and get bigger, and then I'll have three. I'll have my main trunk and two main leaders coming off of it. And that's normally what I like to stick to, okay? The other side over here, we have another horizontal limb. It's gonna be getting on the ground. It has a little sucker that's just started. I'm just gonna be careful not to cut the sucker. I'm gonna cut that horizontal limb out, okay? Really starting to open that plant up, all right? And hopefully that trimming of the bottom will produce more growth at the top, and this thing will start getting some height on it and start picking everything up off the ground, which is what I'm looking for. Really good looking plant though. Let you look here at some of the ones that I've been keeping pruned. You see how the bottom is nice and open, airflow. You've got three main leaders here. You got your main trunk, one side shoot, two side shoots. So you got three main strong limbs, your main and two limbs coming off of it, and then everything from there should stem off of that, okay? If at any time these limbs start to look diseased, I'll go in there and I'll start pruning those. Same over there. See how the bottom's nice and open. You see the fruit already hanging in there, getting good airflow. There's one yellow leaf there, a couple on that stem, and I may end up pruning that. I'll tell you what, let's just go ahead and take a look at that while we're looking at it. Let's just go ahead and point it out and take it off, okay? I've got a limb here, I've got some yellowing going on there, some curling, some kind of burnt edges look. It's a little wilted looking here. A lot of this is probably from the cold nights that we've had, guys. But for the sake of showing you how we can go about pruning and keeping these things looking good, I'll go ahead and take this limb off. This is a foliage limb. You can see where the sucker came out here. The sucker is actually going up. It's the one that's put on the fruit. It's got the blooms at the top and going to be making fruit. This is just purely foliage, okay? So a lot of times we create airflow by coming in and getting rid of these foliage limbs. And especially if you see any disease on them, best thing to do is just go ahead and cut them off. They're not going to produce fruit. They're just simply there for photosynthesis and to gather nutrients. But as you can see, the plant's good and healthy. It's got plenty of limbs, plenty of leaves. I don't need this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim that one. That way I know that's not gonna spread. Guys, got a few limbs here on this one that's got some issues. We need to get them out. First of all, you see this one where it's curled, yellowed. That's showing some signs of wilt and disease. We need to get that off there. All right. Comes all the way back to the stem there. I'm just going to reach right up in here with my knife. I'm just going to snip that right off. All right. Just get rid of that. Don't need it. This one here is hanging down, dragging the ground. Don't need it. I'm going to leave this one right here. My thumb's hitting. See that one? It's going to shoot up. A little sucker, what people call a sucker. We'll leave that one. Alright. Some of these suckers down here are a little bit too close. I'm gonna go ahead and just pinch them off. Same for this one. So go ahead and get that one out of here. Alright, now the bottom of that plant's looking a lot better. Matter of fact, this one's too close. Just gonna go ahead and get it out of there. Now you see how open that is? Everything's up off the ground. Much better. Tell you what, this one over here is starting to show a little sign. See the wilted leaves there? I'm gonna go ahead and get it too. All of it, just a little up off the ground there. Now, much healthier looking, open at the bottom. Get this little bug there. Open up at the bottom, get a lot more air through there. Some of this starts to come out, I'll come back and prune more. Looking better already. We're gonna go around and do the rest of it. All right, guys, looking at this Bonnie Select here again. Really beautiful plant, nice dark, almost purple stem, really dark foliage with some purple spots coming through the foliage. Really pretty plant. I'm excited to see what this one's going to do. I wish I remembered the exact name of it. I'm going to have to look it up because I really like it, and I'll probably, if it produces as well as it looks, I'm going to plant more of them in the future. We've got some major limbs here. Horizontal branch, got a nice sucker shoot coming off of it. I'm going to go ahead and trim this big horizontal branch off. It's just not necessary, and I don't want it hanging down, same as the rest. Now this one had a sucker right down close to the base that I'd left when I first put it in. I trimmed the side shoot off, horizontal shoot, left the sucker. But I tell you what, it's a little bit close to the bottom. I don't really like it. It's just too busy right down at the base and stem. I want to get up off the ground a little bit. So I'm gonna trim that sucker off. And now I've left this sucker and this sucker, and then there's one on the back side here that come off from that big limb that I just took off. Now I've got 3 sucker shoots that are coming off that will be growing upward. The suckers come out at an angle, the side shoots come straight out and hang down. That's the ones that give you problem around the base of your plant. These suckers, these are the ones that are going to produce the flowers. These are the ones that are going to produce the tomatoes. They come off at an angle, and they're going to be going in an upward fashion, which gets me up off the ground. That's what I want. All right, you see it's already blooming, trying to produce fruit. It's really grown well since I put it in. It's been very healthy. It didn't set back at all. As soon as I put it in the ground, it just took off. It's really doing well. So this plant's looking great. These haven't been trimmed at all yet. I just planted them and haven't done anything to them. Other than just putting them in the ground. I did pick off the bottom couple of limbs when I put them in, but it needs pruning more now. You see these limbs that are hanging down to the ground here? You want to get those up off the ground. Now what I like to do on a plant like this, because everything's growing up, I like to leave it long enough for the suckers to come out. And those are these that are between the main limb and the main trunk of the plant. These little small suckers that come out here, I like to wait until they're starting. And then, see, this one was a sucker. I pulled off the limb below it, I left the sucker, and it's growing upwards, okay? So I can come in here and tie this with a string around here, and this is gonna continue to go up. Same over here, this one, there's a couple over here that I had done the same way when I first put the plant in. Picked off the lower limbs but left the suckers. They're growing upwards, okay? But those main limbs, they're gonna grow out and they're gonna hang down and they're gonna get on the ground, and that's when you start getting your brown leaves, and you start picking up your kind of diseased type leaves and your wilt. You don't want anything on a tomato plant touching the ground, in my opinion and in my experience. Plus, you want optimal airflow through the base of the plant and up through the plant, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in here, all these horizontal leaves or limbs that are sticking off that are gonna hang down and start getting to the ground, I'm gonna come in here with my knife. You can have scissors, snips, whatever you wanna do, but I always carry a pocket knife so it's easy just to do it. All right, I'm gonna take off all of those lower horizontal limbs. And I'm just gonna trim them right up close to the trunk. I'm not gonna cut the trunk. I'll be careful not to cut the trunk and not to tear the limb off and damage the trunk of the plant. But I want to cut straight through and just cut those off. Okay, like I said, if you want to leave some lower, these are very prolific growers. I've grown them before. Called Juliet tomatoes. They're gonna make like a tag of tomatoes that are mid-size to small type tomato, excuse me. A little bit smaller than the Romas that I have here, but they make big clusters and tons of them. They're very sweet, good tomatoes, and they make just a lot of tomatoes. They're very, very good, hardy growers, okay? So I'm gonna leave some of these bottom limbs. I'm not gonna trim it up real high because it's kind of stemmy. It goes up and then it just shoots off a lot of side shoots and really produces off of them. So I'm gonna leave these. I'm just gonna put a string around these lower ones at a time and let them grow, because they really do well. And I'm not gonna worry too much about pruning everything off the bottom, but I do want those horizontal limbs that are gonna be dragging the ground. I do wanna get those off. So same thing over here. Come in here, leave the sucker, trim the horizontal limb off. Here, leave the sucker, trim the horizontal limb. Same there, okay. Now this one's got suckers all around the base. I'm gonna let it grow. If it starts looking a little bit too crowded and looks like it's choking the airflow out, I may come back and cut some of those off. It's an ongoing process. I don't want to do it all at one time. I want to do it a little bit along. Keep judging the plant as it grows. Keep monitoring it and making sure that it's looking like I want it to look. If it gets to the point where it's looking a little bit thick and the airflow is being impeded, I'll take a little off. As long as it's looking good, growing good, and I don't think anything's going to be affected, I'll leave them. So that's really how I go about pruning my tomato plants.